Have you ever looked at someone and thought, they must be doing really well? They've got that new car, fancy watch, designer clothes, only to find out later they were drowning in debt? You're not alone. So many of us grew up in a world where looking successful was seen as a kind of proof that you were successful. You wore your worth on your sleeve, literally. A polished suit, a luxury handbag, or a shiny new car meant you were someone who had made it. But here's the truth no one really talks about. Looking rich and being rich are two completely different things. In fact, sometimes they're on opposite sides of the road. And if you're someone over 60, trying to make the most of what you've earned, trying to build peace and security, not just for yourself, but maybe even to leave a legacy, then this one shift in mindset could change everything for you. You see, the idea of looking poor might make some people cringe. But hear me out, because this isn't about neglecting yourself or living in shame. It's about freedom. It's about making choices that serve you, not the opinions of strangers. It's about stepping into a mindset that actually leads to wealth and keeps it. So today, I want to talk to you about why looking poor actually matters, especially as we get older. I want to invite you into a way of living that's not only smarter, but more peaceful. Because let me tell you something. Real peace isn't parked in the driveway. It's sitting in your savings account. Let's start by clearing something up right away. Looking poor is not the same as being poor. When I say look poor, I don't mean walking around in torn clothes or feeling like you don't deserve nice things. I don't mean giving up self-respect or living without dignity. What I'm talking about is releasing the need to prove something to other people. Because let's face it, after 60 we've already lived through enough noise. We've raised families, paid mortgages, buried loved ones, rebuilt careers, and maybe even survived illnesses. We've earned the right to stop performing. And yet, the pressure to keep up doesn't always go away. It just changes faces. It's no longer about the PTA moms or the office crowd. Now, it's about what your neighbors post on Facebook, what your grandkids expect, or what you think you should look like at this stage. But let me ask you, what if you didn't need to keep up anymore? What if not keeping up was the very thing that finally set you free? Many of us were never taught the difference between looking rich and being rich. And that confusion has cost people a fortune, literally. It's one of the biggest reasons people struggle in retirement, not because they didn't make enough, but because they didn't keep enough. The truth is, it's expensive to look rich. It costs money, time, and energy, all of which are even more precious now than they were in your 30s or 40s. Think about it, fancy vacations, new outfits, upgraded phones, just because gifts for people who might not even notice. It's a constant drip. And every dollar spent on looking rich is a dollar not invested in becoming financially free. That's the trap many people fall into. They spend their best earning years trying to look like they have money. And by the time retirement rolls around, they realize they spent it all proving it, instead of actually building it. And you know what makes it worse? We often end up copying the wrong people. It happens all the time. Someone sees a friend, a sibling, or even a celebrity who seems to have it all. The boat, the big house, the shiny car. And they think, if I can just get there, I'll finally feel successful too. So they chase it. They upgrade. They stretch their budget. They dip into savings. They take out loans. All to keep up with someone who might be one step away from bankruptcy themselves. Let me tell you something I learned the hard way. Most people who look rich aren't. I'll never forget an old neighbor of mine. Drove a BMW, wore suits even to the grocery store, always looked sharp. People whispered, he must be a millionaire. One day we got to talking over the fence, and he told me he was behind on his mortgage and had maxed out his credit cards. Meanwhile, another friend of mine, who wore the same jeans every day and drove a 10-year-old Toyota, had quietly built a portfolio worth over $1 million. Nobody knew. That's the lesson right there. True wealth doesn't have to scream. In fact, it usually whispers. So if you've ever felt behind because you don't wear designer clothes or drive a new car, let that burden go. You're not behind. You might just be ahead of the game and don't even know it. And that brings me to something powerful. I hope you'll take to heart. Truly rich people, people with long-term wealth, aren't trying to impress anybody. They've moved past that. They're not shopping to show off. They're not dining out to be seen. They're not burning through money to prove they're doing well. They already know who they are. They don't need approval from people at the country club, or likes on social media, or compliments at the family reunion. Their money works for them quietly, in the background. It's in investments, not shoes. It's in property, not purses. It's in time freedom, not timelines for the next purchase. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need millions of dollars to start thinking this way. All you need is a shift in perspective. You can start right now, right where you are. When you let go of the need to look a certain way, you open the door to a life that feels a certain way, peaceful, independent, and secure. You start making choices based on values, not vanity. You wear what's comfortable, not what's flashy. You drive what's reliable, not what's impressive. You spend time with people who make you feel loved, not judged. And that, my friend, is real wealth. You don't need to downsize your home tomorrow or cancel your next vacation. But I want you to start asking yourself, with every purchase, every decision, am I doing this to feel good or just to look good? Because when you get clear on that question, everything else starts falling into place. It's not about sacrifice, it's about intention. You're not giving up the good life, you're choosing the better life. The one where you're not just living to keep up appearances, but living to keep up with your own goals, to feel free, to sleep better, to wake up with less stress, and to know that no matter what happens out there in the world, you've built something strong and solid for yourself. And that mindset shift, my friend, is the first step towards something powerful. We talked about how looking rich doesn't mean being rich, and how looking poor might just be one of the smartest choices you can make as you age. Not because you're trying to hide who you are, but because you're learning to protect what truly matters. So let's go deeper, because there's something even more powerful beneath this idea, and it's how rich people really think. Most people aren't wealthy because they're copying the wrong blueprint. It's not a lack of intelligence or even opportunity. It's that we've been taught to imitate the wrong models. We copy the showboats, not the silent builders. Turn on the television or scroll through social media, and what do you see? Expensive homes, fancy cars, designer outfits, private jets. That's the version of wealth that gets glorified. But let me tell you a secret. Those aren't the people who stay rich. Many of them aren't even rich at all. They're just loud. The real wealthy folks? You probably wouldn't notice them walking down the street. They're not wearing flashy jewelry or the newest sneakers. They're the ones in plain t-shirts, sipping coffee, living quietly. But under the surface, they've got portfolios growing, properties appreciating, passive income flowing. And they're not chasing approval. This is the mindset difference that separates people who look like they have money from people who keep their money. Let me share something personal. Years ago, I met a man in his late 60s at a local diner. He looked like your average grandfather, button-down shirt, old baseball cap, beat-up truck parked outside. We struck up a conversation, and he mentioned casually that he'd retired early, paid off his house decades ago, and lived off investment income. I was stunned. This man didn't look rich, but he was living exactly the kind of life so many people dream about. Stress-free, debt-free, financially independent. And the best part? He didn't owe that life to luck. He built it over time by not trying to impress anyone. That conversation changed how I looked at everything. Because here's the thing. Trying to look rich costs more than just money. It costs you time, peace, and opportunity. You spend hours researching the next thing to buy. You worry about keeping up appearances. You stretch your budget, hoping no one notices the credit card balance growing. All that effort. For what? A moment of approval? A few compliments? It's not worth the price. But when you shift your thinking, when you start living below your means and stop worrying about what others think, your entire financial picture changes. You no longer have to hustle to look successful. You become successful quietly and on your own terms. That's what the truly rich understand, and it's why they don't need to show off. Because when your money is actually working for you, when it's invested, compounding, building, you don't need validation. You don't need to look like anything. You're too focused on the reality of your wealth to waste energy on the appearance of it. And here's something else to consider, especially as you grow older. Looking wealthy can make you a target. I know it's not comfortable to talk about, but it's real. There are people out there who are desperate. When you wear a $3,000 watch or drive a car that turns heads, you attract attention, sometimes the wrong kind. And that attention can lead to problems, especially when you're in a stage of life where safety and peace of mind should come first. Why put a target on your back? Why make yourself vulnerable when you could live a quiet, comfortable, safe life and still be winning? That's one more reason looking poor is powerful. It keeps you out of the spotlight and lets you focus on what truly matters: your health, your family, your freedom. Now, I want to be clear, this isn't about never treating yourself. It's not about denying joy or living miserably. If you've got the money and you want something meaningful, go for it. But do it from a place of confidence, not a need to be seen. Spend wisely, not loudly. There's something beautiful about owning your choices, about saying, "Oh, no, I don't need the newest car. My 10-year-old one runs just fine." Or, "I don't need a closet full of brand names. I'm investing in my future, not in other people's opinions." It's that kind of decision-making that builds wealth over time. I know people who never made six figures in their careers, never had big inheritances, but they're millionaires today. How? They made simple, wise, quiet choices. They didn't buy every new gadget. They didn't trade cars every 2 years. They didn't spend money to prove something. And now, in retirement, they're traveling, helping their grandkids, donating to causes they care about, and doing it all without worry. That's the reward of the mindset I'm talking about. And you can start practicing it now. If you're still spending to impress others, or even just out of habit, pause for a second. Ask yourself, is this helping me build the future I want? If it's not, let it go. That money could be growing in the background, earning interest, buying you freedom. And freedom is the real luxury. It's not about gold chains. It's about the golden years, living them with security, peace, and joy. And let me add this. When you choose to look poor in a culture that worships flash and fame, it's actually a sign of strength. You're choosing substance over style, long-term over short-term, wealth over applause. That's what wise living looks like. That's what real wealth feels like. So let go of the pressure. You've already lived through the decades of proving yourself to your kids, your coworkers, your community. Now it's time to prove something to you, that you can build the life you want quietly, calmly, confidently. You don't need a new car to be proud of yourself. You don't need name brand clothes to walk tall. You don't need to explain your choices to anyone. You've earned the right to live free. And if anyone questions why you don't look rich, just smile. Because you know the truth. You're not chasing wealth. You're becoming it. So here you are, maybe sitting in a home you've worked hard to keep, watching your spending, learning how to stretch what you have, not because you're scared, but because you're smart. You're doing something most people never do. You're thinking like the wealthy. And thinking that way, especially in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, is more powerful than ever. Because now you've got something younger folks don't have yet: wisdom, life experience, perspective. And here's one of the most important perspectives to carry with you. Real wealth doesn't need a stage. It needs a plan. You don't need to act rich when you're actually building something real. And you don't need to impress people who won't be the ones taking care of you when you're older. It's your choices, not your image, that will carry you into the years ahead. So let's talk now about what it means to truly build that kind of mindset. Because it's not about just saving money, it's about how you see money. When you stop seeing money as something to spend to show status and start seeing it as something to grow for freedom, everything shifts. That's what the truly wealthy do. And believe it or not, you can too. Right now, right where you are. No matter your income, no matter how late you think it is, it's not too late to change your mindset. You don't need to win the lottery or get a huge inheritance to start building wealth. You just need to stop looking out there for wealth and start focusing in here on the small, wise, daily decisions that make all the difference over time. So what does a rich mindset really look like? It's living below your means, even when you can afford more. It's skipping the $300 coat you don't really need and putting that money into something that grows, like a stock you hold or a savings account for a grandchild's future. It's understanding that peace of mind in retirement is more valuable than a new purse or a bigger television. It's the joy of knowing you're not buried in debt, not chained to monthly payments, not pretending to be something you're not. It's walking into a room without needing attention and walking out with your dignity intact. It's knowing that your security isn't based on what people see, but on what you know you've built quietly, patiently, and wisely behind the scenes. That's the kind of wealth that lasts, and it starts in the mind, not the bank. You know, when people ask, "How do I look rich?" what they're often really saying is, "How do I feel valuable?" And that's a deeper question because true value doesn't come from things. It comes from purpose, from confidence, from peace. And guess what? Peace doesn't come from looking rich. It comes from not worrying about looking rich. The moment you stop playing the comparison game is the moment you start winning. You free yourself from the endless loop of, "Do I measure up?" and instead focus on what matters to me. And that clarity is priceless. Because let's be honest, no one gets to the end of their life wishing they had a newer car or fancier shoes. But plenty of people reach the end, wishing they had worried less, saved more, and lived on their own terms, not for the approval of people who won't even show up at their funeral. So if you've been thinking about simplifying, if you've been craving a life that's lighter, quieter, calmer, consider this your permission. You don't have to keep up. You don't have to upgrade. You don't have to impress. You just have to be wise. With your money, your time, your energy. That's what your future self will thank you for. That's what your grandchildren will learn from. Not the brands you wore, but the values you lived. And if anyone looks at your life and thinks you don't have much, let them. They don't know about the investments you've made, the debt you've paid off, the legacy you're building, not just in dollars, but in choices. Because in a world obsessed with looking successful, choosing to live beneath your means is one of the most rebellious and powerful things you can do. It's saying, "I value my freedom more than I value appearances." It's saying, "I'd rather be rich in reality than in reputation." And it's saying, "I choose peace." That's the mindset I want you to carry today. Not fear, not regret. Just confidence that every time you don't buy something flashy, you're investing in something better. Your future. You're not missing out. You're moving ahead. And the funny part is, once you stop chasing the image of wealth and start building the substance of it, something changes in you. You walk different. You think clearer. You sleep better. You stop needing things to feel whole because you already are. And you realize you're not behind. You've been ahead the whole time. Maybe you've already been doing this. Maybe you've been living in the same modest home for decades, driving the same reliable car, wearing the same comfy shoes. And maybe, just maybe, you've been wondering if you're doing something wrong. Because the world around you keeps shouting, "Buy more, show more, prove more." But I'm here to tell you, you're doing something right. In fact, you're doing something wise. Because the goal is not to look like you're winning. It's to actually win. Quietly. Consistently. On your own terms. And isn't that the life we all want? A life where you're not chasing someone else's dream, but living your own. A life where your worth isn't hanging in your closet, it's resting in your heart. A life where the best days aren't behind you, because you've built something solid for every day to come. So if no one else has told you this today, you're doing a good job, you're on the right path, and you don't need to change a thing to impress anyone. Just keep building, keep investing in yourself, in your future, in the people and priorities that matter. And if this message resonates with you, I'd love for you to share your thoughts in the comments. What's one thing you've stopped spending money on that's helped you feel freer? Or maybe a lesson you've learned about wealth and simplicity. I'd be honored to read it. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the Strong Elderly Life channel and share it with someone you care about. We're building a community here, one rooted not in image but in wisdom, peace, and truth. Here's to living simply, quietly, and richly, on your terms. You've earned it. And remember, the best person to take care of the old you is the wise you today. Take care of yourself and take care of each other.